Hi folks, Jennifer Nelson here, founder of Scout Real Estate. Glad you're listening in. I created Pocket Hours podcast to elevate our game and help us all learn from the best. I have interviewed some of the top producers in our industry about best practices, among many other things. We also tackle industry issues and changes with great conversation from many of our leaders. And the best part is you get clock hours just for listening in. After you have listened to 3 episodes, just email info@scoutrealestate.com to answer a few easy questions for the interview, and you will receive your certificate. Meanwhile, enjoy listening and learning, and go out there and be the agent you would hire. Hey folks, Jennifer Nelson here with Pocket Hours, interviewing Amy Carlson of Sand and Pine Creative. Amy Carlson was hired by Scout to run our social media platforms, and I believe is doing a great job. Amy is an incredibly vivacious, creative, fun person. I'm excited for you to get to know her on this interview. And for those of you that want to know a couple do's and don'ts of social media, she gives a really clear picture of that in this interview. In addition, if you're struggling with your social media platforms, how do I use this? Am I doing it well? She is a great person to consult with. Even if you end up not hiring her, she does a very inexpensive brainstorming session that helps sort of give you a platform, direction to take your social media. Can't wait for you to hear more from Amy Carlson. I'm super excited today because I get to interview on the show my friend and also someone that I work with closely at Scout. Amy Carlson from Sand and Pine Creative is here with us today. Yay! I'm so glad you're here.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
Of course, of course. Amy and I go back a whole year and a half, but I feel like she's the kind of person that once you meet her, you feel like you've known her a long time. Just really good people.
Thank you.
And Amy has come to Scout actually to teach a class alongside me around social media, among many other things, as that's kind of a big topic. But I wanted her to come on the show today to talk about how real estate agents can use this powerhouse of the thing we call social media to really enhance their business. And before we get into all that really meaty stuff, Amy, tell us a little bit about yourself, family, pets, all the things.
So I'm actually originally from Arizona. So I was born and raised in Yuma, Arizona. This is where I was, born, family raised, went to high school, went to college, met my husband. And then 8 years ago now, which time is just flying by, but we decided to move up to the Pacific Northwest, and we went from 118 degrees to the beautiful rain. And people always ask, do you miss it? And I say, absolutely not. We absolutely love the rain up here. We reside in Grays Harbor. We are actually in Montesano, so our little town of Monty is what we call it. And I live with my husband and our son, William. He's actually just about to turn 4 in 2 weeks.
Nice.
Again, don't know how that happened. And then we have our 4-legged daughter, Leia. Yes, after like Princess Leia from Star Wars. I love to hike when I am not working. Getting outdoors is something that we couldn't really do in Arizona, so we take full advantage of doing that here. And then I'm a huge crafter, so with being a designer by trade and by heart, it also goes to other areas of my life. So crafting and scrapbooking and all that kind of stuff is kind of what I do on my spare time too. And so, yeah.
That's awesome. For purposes of today, when people are listening to this later, it's August 29th, and we have had an incredible summer of sunshine and high temps. And today is the first day that we're like wearing sweatshirts, and it's cloudy outside, and it's like 64 degrees or something. I don't even know, maybe even less than that.
Totally. Yeah, I think it's 62 here.
There we go. Yeah.
Yep.
And so here comes the fall. Here we go.
Yep. We were talking a little bit before we started recording. It's like on my walk this morning, I took about 3 steps, turned around, walked back inside and got a jacket. Yep. I'm ready for it.
Yes. All the Pacific Northwesters are cheering today at finally getting back to that. So you didn't probably decide when you grew up that you were going to be a social media person doing what you're doing. So what'd you do prior to what you're doing now?
Oh, so I actually had an entire life before I went to school. So
Uh,
I actually started dancing at the age of 3,
mm,
and did ballet, tap, jazz, all of, your typical things. And then I actually became a professional dancer for about 12 years, but I did get injured. And so that essentially retired my dance career personally, but then I continued with teaching and coaching and choreographing. And so I did that all down in Arizona. And at the same time, I was going to school and getting my degree. And that teaching at the time also allowed me to graduate debt free, which was really amazing. But yeah, that's a whole life before. But it kind of led me going into graphic communications. Originally, I started actually going to college for engineering. And 2 semesters in, I realized really quickly that that's not what I wanted to do.
okay.
I wanted to be more creative. And so I had a professor at the time, and I had taken a couple classes from him. And he sat down with me and was like, I see that you're not happy. Like, what do you like to do? And so he kind of led me in that graphic communications direction. And here we are. So after I graduated college, I actually got a position in the marketing department that is down in Arizona, and worked there for about a year and a half. And my job there was working directly with sponsors that were sponsors of the Marine Corps families. And at the time, they were just starting to have a platform of social media and a presence on social media, as in that area of being on the Marine Corps side. And I was again one of those young kids just coming out of college, and I had a couple of the higher ups going, "We don't know anything about this. Like, do you want to start taking it on?" And just like trying to play with it. And so me and another gal, we took it on and we started playing with it. And I really quickly actually realized that not only was I having fun with it because I am a social butterfly myself, but it came really naturally. And so I was realizing that my brain just started flowing with all of these ideas. And so from there, it's just kind of grown, and social media has become essentially my wheelhouse.
Oh, that's so cool. Before we get into social media, I'm super fascinated by the dance background. What
Yeah.
kind of dance did you do?
So I starting was always like ballet, jazz, tap. And then as I got older, we started doing a little bit of like hip hop and ballroom. And then I professionally was a jazz and modern contemporary. And then on the side, I always have enjoyed tap dancing, was always just like one of my favorite. And of course, I had point shoes and the whole 9 yards. So
Wow,
it was 20 some years of dancing the whole realm of it. So
that's so cool. And how's your body now?
it hurts sometimes. I'm actually very lucky. I actually took very good care of my feet. So even though I danced for so long, a lot of dancers have not so pleasant looking feet, especially when you wear point shoes. But I took really, really good care of my feet. And so I'm actually really thankful that I did that. Definitely feel it every once in a while when I wake up in the morning. But I try to take really good care of my body now, too, of, after into my 30s, and then after having a little one and being pregnant, of still taking care of my body and going to the gym, making sure that I'm still, having muscle tone and not just letting, all of that training go. And especially with like flexibility, I noticed that when I do still concentrate on keeping somewhat of my flexibility, my body always feels a lot better than when I'm not stretching. So,
Totally, totally. And
yeah.
side note commercial for realtors listening in, if you don't have some sort of meditation workout regime in your world as an entrepreneur, get one.
Hmm.
It's so important for us to, in the midst of our stressful lives, take care of our own bodies. So that's a free announcement there.
Absolutely.
Okay, so then let's dive into social media. So when you came to help us teach the class here, or you actually taught the class, give us a little history around how this came to be, social media in general.
We say way back when, but it wasn't just too many few years past of social media popped up. We all know that Facebook was one of the original ones, but there were a couple of previous ones before that. And it really was trying to be a social platform. So a way for people to connect socially. And it was, across the world
Mm-hmm.
and just a way to share their lives and to share, daily lives, but also, their businesses. And then it quickly grew into a platform where businesses were needing to show up. And then as we are today, it's pretty much a requirement that if you're going to be a true successful business, that you do need to have some presence on social media, whether it's one platform and you specialize, in one platform, or if it's all the platforms. It's pretty important to be in front of your clients. One of my sayings is that if you aren't showing up in front of your clients, somebody else is.
Oh, ugh. Yeah, that's so
Yep.
true. Okay. I mean, at first, this felt like the young person's game,
Hmm.
and it was mostly a social, like, oh my gosh, I connected with someone I knew, back in high school, and I'm in college now, not that long ago.
Yep.
But now it seems to have become really a big leg, if you will, of any business, any business. Um,
Absolutely.
so I guess first of all, statistically speaking, of the platforms, let's go through them for a minute. Facebook,
Hmm.
Instagram, Twitter,
Hmm.
LinkedIn. You're gonna name some more probably that I can't think of. Um,
Pinterest is one of my big ones. Yep.
oh, Pinterest, that's right.
Yep. And
Um,
TikTok.
and TikTok, my
Yep.
least favorite. But yeah, okay, okay, okay. Um, what is one of those that is the least utilized?
I think from a business standpoint is LinkedIn. So I think LinkedIn has gotten the rap of that people have their profiles, but they don't necessarily go on and use it. They don't go on and share. The thing that I really love about LinkedIn is that their algorithm is different. You're not fighting with this so-called algorithm. It's set up so that no matter what you're doing, whether you're liking or commenting or sharing something yourself, every single one of your followers gets to see it. And at that point in time, if anybody does anything, they like, they share, they comment themselves on something that you've shared, all of their friends immediately also get a ding
Mm,
of that, hey, your friend Jennifer Nelson commented on this post, and it opens up the door. So it's so much bigger than a lot of the other platforms, that the doors are getting smaller and smaller of showing up in front of your clients and showing up in
mm,
front of even just your friends and family. And so
mm-hmm,
I think that my personal opinion is LinkedIn is the place to be, especially
mm.
when you have a business like real estate itself. If your target audience is those business professionals, those are the ones that that age range that you're trying to get in front of. LinkedIn is the place to be.
We were talking when you were here about a lot of new real estate agents feel like they need to go spend $10,000, $15,000 on this fancy website.
Hmm.
And that some of the push, and even I think something you said in the class, was that instead of spending money in that direction, to spend it on a social media presence. And you don't need to spend even a fraction of that, right? As you said, a lot of
Absolutely.
this is free.
Hmm.
But being able to establish yourself where there's quick access to you, because there's less and less people, or should say fewer and fewer. Oh, my mother would be so excited right now that I just corrected myself. Fewer and fewer people that are going to a website and hanging out there for any length of time. Is that true?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, when you think about just yourself, when you go and you're meeting somebody maybe out in the street, maybe it's a new real estate agent, we're the immediate access that we usually go to is our phones. So usually when you try to Google somebody, you're picking up your phone first and foremost. And these days, social media platforms are not just social media platforms, they're search engines. And so, if I have just met you out in the public, or maybe we were at a networking event and I go, Jen Nelson, the majority of people these days are going to their social platforms and searching for your profiles. And then they're wanting to getting to know you way before they're going to go in and look for your website. And so, social media, the majority of them are free. Go in and make sure that you have at least a profile that maybe you're posting on even just once a month, and have some sort of presence. It's all free. And then at that point in time, you can, run maybe ads, and even ads can be such a very nominal amount of money compared to what it takes to host a website, build a website, maintain a website, even the time and energy behind that. Websites have their place for sure, but I've been telling more and more entrepreneurs and especially real estate agents themselves of get on the social platforms first, build that first. And then once you have some income, especially if you're a new agent, once you have some income and then you still feel that you want to build a website, maybe then start going down that avenue. But social media first, 100%, because they want to know you.
Yeah, and speaking of that, which is something we touched on in the class too, is some agents have said to me before, how do I separate out my personal life from my business persona? And you talked a little bit about that in the class. So just refresh our listeners about what you would say about how do you separate, and pros and cons of that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think this is definitely a personal preference. So I'll just use myself as an example. I do have two profiles. So I have two Facebooks, I have two Instagrams, I have only one LinkedIn at this point in time. I even have two Pinterests, but I use my personal one and it's very locked down because we show our little one's faces on there. And we use that for connecting with our family and our friends and showing those daily moments that maybe not necessarily are 100% business. And then I use my more professional one to still share, me and who I am, but I focus on me instead of my family and instead of, our son. And on my business one, I still share, the daily of like, this is what my cup of coffee is today. Or, I posted, I think just a couple days ago about, I think I'm even doing it today. Some days it's really hard to show up on social media. I have found that I wear mock necks, and so they hide my little bit of a neck. And so it's still being, me and still being vulnerable, but within a business sense of that, I was going to go speak and do a presentation. And I felt, not the best that day. And so I put a mock neck on, took a picture and was like, remind yourselves, like find those couple of tops that you always feel really good in if you're needing to go show up and do a presentation or speak or even just meet somebody in person, so that at least what you're wearing takes that off of your mind. And so you can concentrate on what you're saying and speaking and talking about. And so things like that are what I share on my business side of things. And I always like to say, our main feed is kind of like our business billboards. It's still sharing, deeper information about your brand, but your business, and then also like what you do, so your industry. And our stories are kind of like our highlights, and they are also like our hobbies. And so anytime that, I love coffee. So cup of coffee, what coffee, or like what new coffee shop that I just went and met a client at. And so kind of sharing that within your stories. And so that's my take on the difference of, having a personal page compared to a business page, and how you can still do it pretty seamlessly and kind of connecting the two, but also separating the two and what feels most authentic to you.
Absolutely. We're going to get into 3 do's and 3 don'ts of social media in a minute. But I want to say out loud that what I've found is that some of my most liked or commented on posts have to do with something that is wholly unrelated to my profession.
Absolutely.
And that clients are interested in who I am as a person before they hire me. And I think that's such a benefit to social media, is that we're not interviewing one after another of these, suits showing up for them, and they're trying to figure out, well, which one do we like better? They're digging in way before I sit down face to face and saying, who is this person? Can I find some commonality there?
Totally.
So talk to us about 3 do's of social media. Pocket Hours is brought to you by Scout Real Estate. Hi, I'm Jennifer Nelson, owner at Scout Real Estate. I started this firm with the vision of doing things differently, with our focus on legendary service for our clients and creating a community of producing agents to spur each other to do higher quality work. If you are interested in learning more about how a small group of like-minded brokers have come together to have some fun while doing a lot of business, reach out to me, 206-227-7966, or email Jennifer@scoutrealestate.com. I promise you this, fun is a high priority for me, but so is winning. So if you appreciate those two things, you might be interested in Scout. Looking forward to hearing from you.
I think my first one is consistency. And so finding what consistency means to you, your life, and your business. You'll find a lot of social media experts out there that say, you have to show up every single day. You have to post a reel every single day. You need to be in stories 6 times a day to get ahead of the algorithm. But for a lot of us, especially us moms that are also business owners and entrepreneurs, that's not realistic. And even if, you aren't a mom and you are just a small business trying to do things yourself, it's unrealistic to do that by yourself and to put those expectations on yourself. And so when I say consistency, I mean, sit down with yourself, have a calendar maybe in front of you, and look at your day-to-day schedule and go, I think I can, be consistent on Wednesdays. And maybe it's only one day a week that you're going, okay, on Wednesday, I'm going to put it on my calendar and just be consistent that every single Wednesday I'm coming up with a post, I'm showing up in stories, whatever it may be. And then once you feel that you've gotten into rhythm and that you're having fun with it, for sure, I think that would be my next do. Then maybe, you can add another day or, another 2 days. But the consistency needs to be on your terms, not somebody else coming in and saying, what they think that you should be doing. These social platforms are for us to run and to have fun with. And then I think that goes into my number 2 is to have fun. Have fun on social media. Again, a lot of these experts have their own opinions, and my true opinion about social media is to have fun with it. Make sure that the things that you're posting about and that, you're showing up in stories or making reels about is something that you have fun creating and making and talking about. Because when it's not, typically your audience is going to feel and read and hear that. And then that's no fun for anyone.
Yeah. And I'm going to break in just for a second to say, any realtor out there that's sort of having these canned things done for them, or all they post about is the latest sale. Mm-hmm. I have stopped following you a couple years ago. No offense, but it's not interesting. It doesn't tell me who you are. It's so apparent that you're not having fun, that it feels like it's a checklist item that you're just doing to say, well, I guess I'm on social media, and everybody feels that. So I love that you just said, have fun with it, be authentic, all that.
Absolutely. Okay. I think that rolls into, my number 3 is to humanize your social media platforms, is to show your face. I get it. It's really hard to sometimes show up physically and visually on social media sometimes, but that's what people want to see. They want to see you. They want to connect with a human behind these platforms and not just more information. That's essentially what Google is for. And yes, you do want to show up as an industry leader, of that you do know what you're talking about. You do have, the market reports and oh, look, these are what we're doing. These are my sales. But, even when you have a sale or a new listing post to go up, maybe tell a story behind the house or behind the clients that you just got to serve and have this journey with. Jen, we're actually in the midst of making one of those posts right now. And it definitely brings that connection. It brings the connection of you as an agent that's in an industry that, sometimes has a bad rap, but then it connects it to those people that you serve, and it shows that human, person-to-person connection. So humanize your social platforms.
So Amy, I'm so glad you just brought up that story that I sent you. So Amy is hired by Scout to do all of our social media, and she kills it. Super excited about that. But one of the things I sent to her this last week was the fact that I had helped a client of mine who I actually was a student when I was the dean of students at his high school. I don't think I shared that part with you. Anyway, I helped he and his wife sell their house in Hillman City, move to West Seattle. Her parents followed them, helped them sell in the North End and buy in West Seattle. And then when I went to see the parents, they said, we love our house so much. In fact, we walk out onto our deck every morning with our coffee as our kids drive by with our grandkids in the car and wave at us on their way to school. And that's the kind of thing that you're talking about when we humanize what we do, right?
Totally.
Selling a house, helping someone buy a house. Absolutely. We need expertise in that. But when it comes down to it, that's the kind of stuff that warms my heart. Look what I was able to help facilitate is this connection between these grandparents and these grandkids. So super good.
Absolutely.
Okay.
It's the storytelling part of it.
Yeah, for
Hmm.
sure. Just as a recap, I wrote it down too. Hopefully, if you're listening to this, you're writing it down too. But consistency is one of the
Hmm.
top do's of social media. Having fun is another one. Make sure that it shows up in your posts, that you're enjoying what you're doing. And then thirdly, humanize your platform, which is the story I just told. But make sure you're not just, I sold another house. I sold another house. Sold another house. I'm asleep now. That
Yeah.
we're learning more about you. Okay, so let's move into the don'ts, three don'ts of social media.
I think my number one don't, and this has been a don't for a really long time that is a iffy topic sometimes too, is about not posting private or confidential information. You think that that would be an easy one, but it's actually really surprising how many people still continue to post some private information. I'll give a quick example because we are going back to school. One of the ones that I see quite often is that if your pages are not private and so that they are open for anyone to see, and you have children, please do not share what school your children go to. Unfortunately, it's one of those unfortunate things these days, but it's one of those things that another reason why I have my private pages kind of locked down, separate from my business page, of that, if you live in a small town, it's really hard. But when you're living maybe in a bigger metropolitan area like Seattle, just being very cautious about, sharing that personal information. Another example is also, when you are out and about, and I think especially as females these days, when you're out and about, maybe you're at a coffee shop and you don't necessarily post right then and there that you are there. And especially if it's somewhere that you go on a regular basis, like maybe every single Monday you have your favorite coffee shop that you go to.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, people will start getting wind of that, and there are not so nice people out there. And so, just to be safe about the information that you're sharing out there, and sometimes keeping things private and confidential, and doesn't mean that we can't share our human side of ourselves, but just being very cautious when we are being, sharing that personal information. My next one is not posting inaccurate or misleading claims. So another one that I think that would be common sense, but it's not so common anymore, is just make sure that the information that you're sharing is correct. Double, triple, quadruple check. Make sure that you're having conversations, with other realtors that are within the industry. When you're pulling, let's say, market information off of the MLS or, wherever you're getting this information from, double, triple check it. Make sure that you are posting this information out there that when somebody can come to your profile, they're getting accurate information. Because again, it puts you as an industry leader. But if somebody then starts seeing that, okay, well, this real estate agent is posting this information and this one's posting, they're not the same information. It confuses our clients. It confuses our industry. Make sure that you're posting true and connect and accurate, information.
That's great.
I'll do my third one as an industry specific one for real estate is not sharing properties or sharing photos of properties without permission. So I
Mm-hmm.
think a lot of people kind of forget about this one is that I'm pretty sure the rule still stands is that you can still pull the first photo off of MLS and use that one on a social platform. But make sure that you're not pulling more than one without the permission. It is very standard these days that as agents, you are hiring professional photographers to take the photos of listings. And so without, giving either the photographer or the other agent, at least a shout out, making sure that you're having a conversation with them and making sure that it's okay to share more photos of their properties that they're listing for their clients. And also, it's actually a really great way to make a connection. reach out to the other agent on the other side and say, hey, I'm creating this post. Can I use, more than just that first picture? I want to tag you. I want to, collaborate with you on Instagram. If you don't know what collaboration is, we can talk about that later because that's a really great way to make those connections. And then also, hey, who is your photographer so I can make sure to tag them as well so that they're also getting some notice as well. So I think that would be my third one, is just being cautious of sharing photos of properties without making that connection with the other agent on the other side.
Nice. Yep, absolutely. Great reminders. I know that when we hired you, Amy, in Sand and Pine Creative, which is your company, what we talked specifically about, which I think you're really good at, is sitting down with specifically real estate agents, which I think is a niche of yours, and saying, who are you? And having that show up in the post that you generate for Scout. And specifically talking a little bit, Scout is a brokerage in Seattle, and we also run the Scout School, which is our clock hour classes for real estate agents. And we do this podcast. But who are we as individuals? And what do we value? So coming up in October, our entire company is going to Solid Foundation down in downtown Seattle and helping build homes for the day. And I'm so excited about that because it demonstrates who we are and what we value and that we want to give back. And so without posting about, look at us, how great are we for volunteering, crafting those posts or that story or that reel with the help of Amy to really show that we care about people, we care about housing outside of just our own commissions, and do that in a way that isn't self-indulgent. And so there's some nuance to this. There's some spending some time. There's some professional creativity that I know you bring to what we put out. Certainly if I was in charge of this, well, let's just say it'd be terrible. So we're going to move into just a little bit of why Sand and Pine is such a good social media company to hire. And I want to say one more thing before I stop talking, and that's to say, realtors out there, we have a lot on our plate, and we need to attend to our clients, and we need to be in front of them and spending time with them. We may not need to also add, how is our social media working for us to our hours every week? And so figuring out what to hire out is the sign of a true professional, honestly. So tell us a little bit about how you help real estate agents.
Yeah, absolutely. I think for number one, I'll touch on is sitting down with the real estate agents that I have in the past and really just having a conversation with them and brainstorming. So that's actually something that I offer, is that, when you think about a social media manager, I think a lot of people think that it's this person that comes in and they completely take over and control of everything social media. And what I do is I want to also make sure that the clients that I work with, they also have a hand in their social media platforms, because again, it's their social life, it's their business. And so something that I've done in the past and that I do continue offering, and what I actually really love to do, is having those brainstorming sessions. And it's essentially a strategy meeting. And so, as an example, I have a client right now and that I don't handle any of her social media. She does it for herself because she enjoys doing it. However, she gets to a point where she's like, I don't know what I'm posting anymore about. Like, I don't have any more ideas. Is this a good idea? Is this not a good idea? And so we meet on a monthly basis. We talk about, her personal branding. And when I think about personal branding, it's not about her logo and her colors and like the visuals. We talk about her story. That's her personal branding. It's like, what story is she telling this next month? And so, as we're going into September, we're actually sitting down tomorrow and looking at September, what holidays are out there that resonate with her and her brand. What events is she attending? Does she have any new listings? Does she have any new, solds that are coming up? Does she have any stories to share? But also, we're going into fall. Does she like fall? Like, let's share all the wonderful things that she's also doing, like in her own home to get ready for fall, going back to school, all the things. And so, I think with hiring out somebody to help with your social media is not just a bigger thought of having the physical help, obviously, yes, of crafting the posts, actually creating visuals, actually posting, the tasks behind it. But it's also about hiring the human on the other side of having the connection, making those conversations, brainstorming, coming to the table with more than just your own ideas. And I think then having fun with it too is that, when we meet, we go have coffee, we go have this, strategy meeting over coffee. And we always, also connect of, oh, your son's, birthday party is coming up. And like, she's invited, her and her child is also coming to my kid's birthday party, even though she's a client. And so it's, even in my own business of making those connections with my clients so that they feel, for one, supported, that they are, being consistent with correct information, and having that support through their social media channels so that they can then focus on their business. But it's also just knowing that, on a Sunday where I typically do not touch my phone, I have a very clear boundary with my phone. But if I see, an SOS from a client come through, they know that I will be looking at it because I care about them as well as human beings.
Mm-hmm. For sure. One of the things that I hope you all just heard is that Amy can be hired on a couple different levels. One is, hey, I think I might like social media, actually, but I would love to do a consistent time where I sit down with someone who has the expertise that can help get my creative juices flowing.
Yeah.
And bring me some ideas on what I can go do as a broker, as a realtor. The second thing that she does that I think is amazing, and if you don't do it or your social media person doesn't do it, ask them to or hire Amy, better yet, is there's a collaboration. So what Amy brings is the expertise and the creativity. And what she requires of you is for you to show up. Mm-hmm. And so she can get to know you, and then together you can create a presence online that truly represents who you are, your company, what you stand for and value. She isn't sitting in another country, churning out these things that she does for everybody that are just filling space. There's no point to that. And if you want that, you can go find it. It's out there everywhere. So the kind of package that says, hey, you need to have a social media presence. And if you do and it's junky, she can help repair that. But also hiring her as a consultant, if you will, to sort of come in and take a look at what's happening and help you get steered in the right direction.
Absolutely.
Good. If you were going to leave us with one tip, so there's been a lot of information in this interview, and everybody's starting to black out a little bit, right? They're as they're listening. So before we go, if you were to say, hey, realtors, what's one thing I'd like you to take away? What would it be?
I think a lot of us have heard it, if we're paying attention in the social media world, is to niche down. But even more so, I like to actually talk about your target audience. And so find your target audience. That is my number one tip these days. That's what's going to also help you stand out, but it's also going to help you be efficient within your social media, platforms, but also your marketing in general. If you don't know what I'm talking about with target audience, I have a workbook that I actually have created with my copywriter as well that helps walk you through the steps of really nailing down your target audience. Who are you actually talking to? And it's not this overarching, well, I'm, as a real estate agent, I'm talking to anybody who wants to buy or sell a home. But when we're talking about humanizing, we're going to talk about bringing that in even closer to that middle center part of the target. Who are they? What are their names? Put a face to it. Put an age to it. What do they like to do in their free time? What are their hobbies? What is their business? In what area in Seattle specifically are they looking at? So it helps to really nail down your target audience, because then you can start crafting and curating your message to what their pain points are, because then who you're talking to. You're going to talk very differently to different clients depending on what their pain points are. And so just finding your target audience would be my number one takeaway, and thing that I'm also finding business owners are lost in these days.
For sure. For sure. Oh my gosh, it's been so fun to talk to you. Yay, it's good to see your face.
That's
I know
good to
people
see
listening
you.
to this, we're actually on a Zoom meeting right now because can't imagine doing a podcast interview without actually getting to
Oh
look at
gosh.
someone's face. That would be too hard.
Totally.
But it's great to see you. Can't wait to catch up more personally at
Yes,
another time.
absolutely.
But this has been really, really helpful. And I know the listeners are going to really appreciate that. And for anybody out there that just wants a free consult to talk to Amy
Mhm.
about social media, please look her up. Sand and Pine Creative is her company, and reach out to me if you want any more info on that. Thanks again, Amy, for being on the
Thank
show.
you so much, Jen.
Thank you so much for listening in to Pocket Hours. I hope this has been interesting, fun, made you laugh, made you think, spurred you on to do and implement some new things in your business. I appreciate your time and hope this has been a good use of it, period. Now, go be the agent you would hire.